Awesome. Right. So, to everybody who's watching back then, this is Shane Walsh, who I told you about. I used to work for Shane a couple of years ago. Shane has mentored me quite a lot, and a lot of what I've learned and the way that I coach has came from Shane. How long have you been coaching for now, Shane?
I will be 8 years in January.
So Shane's got a lot of experience and he's very, very knowledgeable in the fitness space, specifically with female fat loss. So I thought getting Shane in, he would be able to add a lot of extra value for everyone in the challenge. So Shane's going to give a little bit of a presentation, and then obviously a lot of you guys have put in questions beforehand. So Shane's also going to run through and answer those questions too. So if you're watching back, this will 100% be worth your time. Shane, do you want to give a bit of an introduction on yourself, tell everyone who you are?
Yeah, and thanks. I appreciate you having me in. So my name is Shane Walsh. I'm the owner of Shane Walsh Fitness. Been in the industry since 2018 to January 2018. I worked in sales and recruitment for 5 years, I'd say. I didn't know what I was really wanting to do, and then in kind of April 2017, I got fluid on my lungs and I got blood clots and fluid on my lungs. So I was admitted to hospital. And then that photo there on the left is me about 6 weeks after getting out of hospital. And that's my dad's arm around me. And he doesn't know. I showed a photo to dad probably about 2 years after this, and he didn't recognize who it was, even though that's his arm. So I didn't, I went into a really, really bad mental health struggle afterwards, wasn't eating, etc. And then started doing the very popular man that is out there at the minute, Joe Wicks, at home because I had to take a year off work. I wasn't allowed to work due to ill health. And then started doing Joe Wicks, started getting into the gym. And then the photo on the right hand side is about a year later. So you can see I shaved my head and got a tan is the big difference. So I'm a PT, online coach, and nutritionist, and host of the Shane Walsh podcast, which has about 2 million downloads on the podcast as well. So that's my thing. So I mainly coach females. I did face-to-face PT for 2 years, and I've been nearly online for about 6 years. So I mainly coach females from all ages, perimenopause, menopause, PCOS, everything. So it's and as Michael knows, it's very hands-on the level of coaching that kind of people would get from myself. So and I love doing everyone's different, but they're actually all the same as well at the same time. So I started doing the female fat loss stuff after doing face to face in the gym, and people were coming up after the classes and asking questions about why am I experiencing cravings? Why am I tired at certain stages of the cycle? And I was like, there must be something into this. And lo and behold, found myself 3 hours deep into cycle on lectures on menstrual cycles. So I found the niche fairly easy that way. I when I first went into this, I thought I was going to be coaching lads to get big, but it ended up being coaching women to get away from yo-yo dieting. And unfortunately, it's a very, very weird and wonderful industry that we work in, and it's always going to be polarizing. And but the basics will always, always work, and it's harder than people will think to get the changes that they want. But it's not the restrictive methods that people think that they need. So I'm going to talk to you about kind of like the basics of the cycle. I know I've got questions on PCOS, perimenopause, and endometriosis. So I'm going to talk about those afterwards. So we're going to talk about tracking your cycle. We're going to talk about the actual cycle itself and what it is. We talk about cycle syncing. So should you be altering your training around your cycle, or is that just bullshit? Do we need to eat more around your cycle? How to manage cravings and the real secret. And then we're going to do the Q&A and the questions that were sent over. So there's an amazing quote by a researcher and scientist over in New Zealand, Dr. Stacey Sims, and she has a quote called "Women are not small men." A lot of the research for a long time was done on men when it comes to training, so there isn't a whole load of research done on women. That's why it's only coming out now. All the research and the sports science on women is completely different to men. Men would have more muscle mass, women would have more a little bit more fat on them, etc. So they're completely different entities, and they work on different sides of things as well. So one of the big things that I talk about with clients is tracking your cycle. So this is an image of from a book, and I cannot remember the name of the authors now, but they kind of call it menstrual cycle is like the four seasons of the year. So if you think of the menstrual cycle as the four seasons, you can think of like your menstruation, your period is your winter, where you're kind of going a little bit inner. You're going a little bit inwards. You're going a little bit more withdrawn from people. You don't really want to do stuff. And then you're kind of going into your spring when you're kind of becoming a little bit more estrogen dominant, where you're kind of going to head towards ovulation and peaking. And then that's probably going to head into summer where you feel like great, you can take on the world, take on loads of activities, and then you're heading to, and that's where you're a little bit heading towards a little bit more progesterone dominant. And then you've got your autumn, which is kind of when you're heading back into like what it is now. Mood might drop, etc. So that's the way to think of it. But apps like Clue, Kindara, and a good old pen and paper can really help to for you to understand your body, because Mary down the road is going to be completely different from Susan down the road. They're two different things. Also, if you're on the pill, it can be it may be different if you're on the pill. You may not have the heightened or elevated cravings or the bloating, etc., because it's artificial hormones that are being pumped into you, which is either estradiol or it's progestin. So it's the two main hormones that women have are estrogen and progesterone, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But getting those apps can really help you to understand and kind of log, right, my cravings are happening here. I may need to eat a little bit more here. I'm a little bit more tired here, so I'm going to take a scale back. Or it could be a time where you're kind of maybe trying to get pregnant and you might be kind of recognizing this is where I'm getting ready for ovulation, or it could be where this is my normal cycle, and then you're heading towards that next stage of perimenopause where you're starting to notice disruptors, because no change in your cycle happens for no reason. It's your body is a report card. It gives you feedback on what your body is doing for you. So if it feels under threat, it's going to shut down. So there's a thing in your brain called the hypothalamus, which is the conductor of the orchestra. And if that feels in any way under attack, either through not getting enough energy into it, aka food, over exercising, too much restriction, an eating disorder, whatever it might be, what might happen is your body will go into safety mode and turn off any unnecessary energy in the body. And that's when a thing called hypothalamic amenorrhea, or HA, might happen, and it will turn off your menstrual cycle. And because the main point of the job of your body is to save the organs, not the reproductive organs, because you need energy to reproduce. You need energy to have a menstrual cycle. And you need energy to ovulate. So this is essentially how your cycle works. Now, in textbook answers, they normally say 28 days is a regular cycle. It can be less and it can be more. It depends on the individual. So looking at it from this, the first day of your cycle is the day you bleed. And then you've got your last day of your cycle. And might be where you kind of have the cravings, a little bit more water retention, a bit more bloat, etc. But you've kind of got your main peak. The whole point of a menstrual cycle is this peak here, is ovulation. That's what its crescendo is. That's what if you're in an orchestra, it's when the drop is happening. That's when the big piece is happening. So that's normally halfway through your cycle. And it's normally about 3 to 5 days in the middle of your cycle where your body will kind of go into will kind of get ready for reproduction. And it's if you're trying to have a kid, you have a fertile window. If you have sex outside of that fertile window, it's like having sex with a doorknob. You're not going to do very well. You're not going to be able to get pregnant. So you're kind of aiming for towards this crescendo. So if you think of your two phases, the follicular phase and the luteal phase. So the first phase is your estrogen dominant phase, which is your Beyonce-like hormone. It makes you sassy. It gives you the energy. It makes you feel ready to go on the go. The second half of the stage is so the estrogen peaks at ovulation and then drops down, and your progesterone starts to take over. Your progesterone's your calming hormone. So you need both hormones to happen. There are other ones that are happening, LSH, FSH, TSH, etc. There are loads of different. You also have testosterone. Men also have estrogen. Women also have testosterone. They just have them at varying different levels. But the menstrual phase is essentially when you have your bleed, etc. So when your period happens, that could last 3 to 5 days. It could last a little bit longer. So that's why the tracking can happen. Then you've kind of got your follicular phase as the section before ovulation. Some people will feel hungrier. Some people will feel great. Some people will feel their libido increases. Then you've got ovulation phase. Some people, the scales can go up at this stage. Some people can feel hornier at this stage. and then you've got the luteal phase, which is the crescendo of it. One of the things that some people might happen here is kind of towards the luteal stage is they might get a little bit more bloated, a little bit more lethargic, and bathroom habits might change. So they might feel a little bit more constipated. And what's happening is the only way for you to get rid of your old cycle is to actually poo it out. And if your body can't poo it out because it hasn't got enough water, vegetables, too stressed, it's just not getting enough energy into it in general, it won't be able to regenerate. So your periods is like a snake skin, it regenerates and the excess goes out in your poo. So if it's not getting enough progesterone into your body or it's a little bit out of whack, it won't be able to get rid of the old one. So you may have elevated symptoms of mood, disturbances, etc. So it's really, really important to kind of understand where you're at. Some people will have 35, some people will have 24-day cycles. It's completely individualized. If it goes shorter than that or goes longer than that, there might be, I know one of the questions that we're going to talk about is on that, but it could be useful just to kind of track your cycle and understand what's kind of going on. So hopefully this comes back on my screen because my laptop is acting up. Um, so then we have PMS and how to manage that. So it's tracking your symptoms. Um, We've got increasing your calories could help, which I'll talk about in a second. We've got sleep and stress management, which could help as well. We've also got exercise we may need to look at and maybe reducing or going out for a walk to reduce bloating. We've got nutrition and things that could be taking self-care, which is actually having some chocolate rather than trying to white knuckle the approach and not having any chocolate. We could also have hormonal birth control, and that can make sometimes things worse or it can make things better for some people, depending on what you're needing, depending on what you want. We also, you may need to take, some people can suffer from PMDD, which is depressive like PMS, and you may need to take antidepressants for that as well, because some people can have really, really severe, so the likes of PCOS and endometriosis, etc. Those people who have that, they can really, really suffer with their cycles, can be really irregular, can be really hard, can be bloating, it can be heavy bleeds, light bleeds, all these kind of different things. So it's self-care is what PMS is all about. It's not about trying to white knuckle it with food. It's getting into your comfy pants, your PJs, letting your body mind rest, hot bath showers, and just kind of being a little bit more chill. Then we have some of the supplements that could help. I wouldn't take these all together. I wouldn't take Vitex at all if you have depression. But one of the big ones that you could take is magnesium, about 300 milligrams per day. The other ones are great and all that kind of stuff, but the magnesium one is probably the gold standard. And Vitex can be useful for some, but you need to take it. You need to take it five. You need to stop taking it about 5 days before your period. But that would be the gold standard on that. So with cycle syncing, it's late in the evening. Um, the cycle syncing is for a long time, and it was taught to us and taught to me in my nutrition course that the element of that you need to reduce your training at certain stages of your cycle and be more aggressive with training at certain stages of your cycle. The research has completely changed on this in the last 18 months. It's it was a social media thing. The research is saying there's no strong evidence to support these rigid training protocols. It's person dependent. It's absolutely person dependent. If because sometimes it can be that you're in your when you're training and you've been told by someone to take it easy and you feel great, you're going to take it easy. And sometimes you feel like that you're going to take on the world, but you feel tired. You're going to try and take on the world, but you may need to kind of take a rest. So it doesn't change how your body is adaptive or muscle building perspective. It's about how you go. It's like it's a level playing field. If you need to take a week that's a little bit of a deload, by all means do it. But if you don't need to do it, don't do it. So the cycle syncing thing is hype. It's a social media trend that was put out there for a long time. The research has completely changed on it, and the more that they've got that evidence on males on females for a long time. So what to eat at different stages, and this will vary and different for loads of people. Every person, every woman is different. It's important to fuel your body for you. This is when the tracking of your cycle can really, really help to navigate this bit. So they used to think that women and people who have menstrual cycles needed about 500 extra calories per day in order to kind of navigate the PMS side or when their estrogen and progesterone shifted, okay, which is normally around this stage here.
Sorry,
Okay.
is this meant to be shown on your screen, the
Yes.
presentation?
Yeah.
It's came off.
So what stage is that? Is it on now?
It's a black screen showing me. There it is. It's back again now. It's
Okay.
back again now.
Okay.
It went away there. Got it.
Okay. So with the whole eating of the cycle side of things, the you are normally taught when the hormones are kind of changing around here. You can kind of see they're dropping here and taking over here. This side here. So that's your estrogen and that's your progesterone taking over. So what was said beforehand was you need about 500 extra calories for around this phase, which isn't the case. So what it's saying now is you need about 100 calories. So normally, to say if someone's been advised to have 1800 to 2000 calories, what will be recommended for that time of the month for that person would probably be going up to 1950 to 2150. That's probably what would be advised in order to kind of be a range of calories for that individual. Now, you may need more, but you also may need that little bit more self-care. You focusing on eating regularly could really, really help. You might be hungry, etc. So it's depending on what you want. But the cravings are happening because your progesterone and estrogen are shifting just here. And it impacts your serotonin and your blood sugars. So that's why you're getting more hungry. And that's why we need to get more nutrient dense food in, which is the likes of your regular meals, more protein based, more fruit, more fiber. It's not the foods you're looking for, because when we crave, we're looking for sugar. Your brain kicks in, is looking for serotonin, it wants that reward dopamine hit as well, which is the higher palatable foods. It just wants carbs, it wants sugar because they're easier to get in. They'll bring up your blood sugar really, really quickly, but they're also going to crash them back down really, really quickly. That's why when we're hungover as well, we look for those more higher palatable stuff as well because we're so tired. Our brain kicks into safety mode again and goes, let's get the quickest source of energy into us right now. So looking at your proteins, your high fibers, which are your vegetables, your fruits, those side of things. Iron rich foods, include some chocolate, eat regular meals. Now, I know me saying this can feel like mansplaining. I know this, but it's trying to figure out what works for you and being okay if you overeat at this stage. The self-compassion piece applies on this as well. And it's really, really important for you to accept that as well, that there will be times you do overeat and it's okay. If it's happening all the time, it might be giving you feedback that maybe it's not willpower, it's not discipline. It might be just that it's coping mechanisms that need to be worked through in the background. So it's the scales and your cycle. Okay, so I'm gonna do this little bit of a video if it works. Nope, it's not gonna work. So with the weighing scales and the cycle and stuff like that. So when someone is weighing in with the menstrual cycle and stuff, it can be really, really useful to log your like week with your like week. So if you're starting off on your cycle and it's your week of your cycle and you're entering in your data here and you say you're at 89 kg and then you know the week after your cycle the scales goes down and it's at 88 and a half. The week after that it's 88 and then it goes back up to the week before and the scales goes back up to 90 and you're kind of like what the hell's happening here? It's because there's varying different hormonal shifts that are going on. There's different fluctuations with your weight, hormones, water retention, etc. So if you track your week one of your cycle, which is when you bleed, in October to week one of your cycle in November, that's a better measure of progress. But taking your measurements will be the key because the measurements will show you fat loss. The weight cannot measure fat loss. It's like someone using their bank balance to tell them how good they are in bed. It's not very useful. So it's really, really important that you measure your fat loss along with doing this. Look at your how's your energy levels? How are your clothes feeling? How like I always ask clients of if the weighing scales and measurements weren't there as a metric of success for you, how would you measure your success? And a lot of people can't answer the question because it's not your fault. Social media, slimming clubs, etc., have told you it's the only way to be accepted, to be validated, etc. But it's not the only way because if it was the only way, we would be happy. So we need to look at it from a place of measure the like week with the like week, and you'll fly it that way. So the real secret for fat loss for women, we need to stop treating yourself like a broken version of a man and actually understand what's kind of going on for you. There's no need to micromanage your workouts. If hunger rises, adjustments like 100, 150 calories. If you need more, great. Cravings are normal. Plan around them. Do you know they're going to come? So maybe increase your calories. Don't punish yourself. Don't try to white knuckle yourself. If you overeat, it's okay. Move on. Long-term fat loss means consistency, not hacks. Okay. So now we've got the questions that you sent over to me. Okay. So the first question that was sent over is, what are the best exercises for building glutes? Is that okay, Michael, or is there any, do you want me to stop? Or is there any questions on any of that?
You can take it, or do you want me to take it? It's up to you.
Is there any questions on the presentation?
Oh, and the president itself, but yeah. Amy, feel free while you're here if you want to ask any questions, fire them into the chat or let us know if anyone wants to write anything in. So
Oh,
far
good.
seems to be all good so far. Yeah, I think most of the
Okay.
questions had been
So,
had been pre-sent in.
okay. So, Amy, if you need me to stop it all, just pop anything in and I'll happily pause. So, with the exercises and stuff like that, what we're essentially looking for is kind of like a hip extension. So think of a door hinge. They're going to be the movements that are going to be better for your glutes, right? Or those kind of like the knee extension ones are going to target the quads a little bit more. So a lot of people want the bigger glutes, and glute strength will help with your lower back pain, will help with your IT band, etc. A lot of athletes will have that as well. Um, so what can help is the likes of hip thrusts, the likes of glute bridges, the likes of 45-degree back extensions, the likes of cable kickbacks, RDLs, step ups, single leg glute bridges, cable pull throughs, etc. If you're looking for less, like if you're looking for more quad dominant ones, it's front squats, goblet squats, leg presses, etc. But those ones of kind of cable pull throughs, RDLs, those kind of stuff would be a little bit more orientated. And then for toning the inner thigh, what I would say is there's no exercise that will spot tone any muscle, no matter what it is. It's normally we hold fat on our body due to genetics. And what I mean by that is we hold it in specific areas. So men will generally hold a little bit more in their stomachs. Women will hold a little bit more in their kind of like the legs, the hips, etc. So that can be the only way to kind of the toning means build a muscle. So it's about getting into a deficit consistently, and that will help to reduce the fat. But we can't spot reduce the fat; it will go when it goes. But it would also help to do like some adductor muscle exercises, etc. That can really help, like activation. It can help with sumo squats, side lunges, side leg lifts, etc. But it's going to be down to a deficit. It's going to be down to consistency. But we can't tone one muscle in isolation. We can't tone or drop body fat in one particular area. It will go where it goes. So hopefully that helps. Um, so the next question got me thinking. So whoever sent this question in, very, very useful. So before anyone gets the wrong version of me, no one knows unless I tell them the secret. But I do wonder about facial hair and diet. One time I did keto for a very short period because any diet that doesn't allow me to eat decent carbs is a struggle. But I did notice the facial hair on my cycle show is slowing down greatly during keto. I've wondered if a different macro setup with higher fat is recommended to help with facial hair, often a symptom of PCOS, so maybe your friend would know. So, keto. was created for epileptic kids, but we have somehow adopted it as a mainstream thing. That's what it was created for. So, life is happier with carbs. Ask your partner. Life is happier with chocolate. Ask your partner. So, what I would say is in relation to your body looking for energy, your body's preferred source of energy is carbohydrates. So, when we're and your body needs energy to get your cycle going. So think about like trying to kickstart a motorbike. It needs something to be able to kickstart, and your carbohydrates are your body's preferred source of energy, along with fats in relation to your cycle. So if we're taking out one macro out of it, it's going to find it harder to do it. But what can happen with PCOS is people say, "Oh, go keto or take out carbs." We don't need to do that at all. So, facial hair and PCOS is mainly driven by elevated testosterone, which is the predominant male hormone. It's driven by insulin resistant, which about 70 or 80% of people with PCOS have, which means that your pancreas can't work at full capacity. It can't process the energy in quick enough in order to produce it and release it. So, if your body's getting white starchy carbohydrates in, your body is going to go right back up on energy wise and have a massive crash. It just can't process it quick enough. And then you've got ovarian and adrenal androgen excess as well, our production. And then you've got overall inflammation and body composition changes as well. So by with the whole thing about a different macro setup, I would say really focusing in on your protein. I'd focus in trying to get in maybe 1.2 grams per kg of body weight could be a solid place to start. Your fats could be 30 to 40%, and your carbs could be 30 to 40% as well. But eating regularly will really, really help just to kind of balance your blood sugar levels and lower that kind of peaks and troughs. Because if you notice when you get hangry, it's probably because we haven't eaten enough during the day. And a lot of people's problems come from undernourishing the day or trying to white knuckle the whole day, and then they end up overeating in the evenings. So a slightly higher fat element could help in relation to that, but it's also some people may not feel great off a higher fat diet. I'm not saying go full metal jacket with your fat production, but it can help. So there are also supplements that can help in relation to it. There can be zinc, there can be myo-inositol, there can be berberine. But you need to, if you have IBS along with or PCOS, which can happen, berberine can really impact on the gut health. So I would say higher protein will really help. Carbs, I'd include, and it's trying to find the balance between all three. It's probably not a helpful answer, but your body's looking for fats and carbohydrates during the cycle. So if we don't give it, your body's going to react in some way into it. And I know acne can be a really common symptom for those with PCOS. So maybe going to talk to a dermatologist or your doctor, maybe looking at maybe getting myo-inositol or getting berberine, because myo-inositol can help in some cases in relation to increasing ovulatory function, etc., and can reduce the likes of insulin resistance. And I've seen amazing changes with clients with myo-inositol and stuff like that. So hopefully that helps. Um, how to balance hormones naturally during perimenopause and menopause through food choices and supplements. Okay, so it's very similar to the last question in relation to eating regular meals. Eating regular meals will keep your energy level steady. It will keep you fuller for longer, and it will help to reduce those peaks and troughs. But the first thing that I would say is go to the doctor if you're having sleep disturbances, hot flashes, etc., and kind of have a chat and kind of make a list of almost do a case study on yourself and make a list of the symptoms that you have and present that to the doctor and be able to say this is what's kind of going on, and you'll be able to maybe get HRT. So there's different types of HRT, different methods of HRT, and seeing if that's a runner for you. So by doing that will give you your answer. Do you need to take something? But what can be done through food is eating regular meals, protein with most meals, high fiber choices, like veggies, berries, etc., healthy fats, and kind of reducing alcohol. It's the one that most people don't like me saying, but reducing alcohol will improve your sleep, will improve your energy, etc. on that side of things, because the healthy fats will help to are the building blocks for your hormones. So we shouldn't be fearing them. Need to eat enough protein because muscle health and bone health will deteriorate after a certain age. And we need to hold on to that as much as we can. So getting 1.2 grams of protein per kg of body weight, so for some 70 kg, getting between 80 and 110 grams per day could help. So think of like a whey protein powder in a smoothie, or um, overnight oats or whatever. There's 25 to 30 grams straight away. Then for your lunch, you could be having something like eggs, beans on toast, and you could be having probably 20, 25 grams straight away there. And then for your dinner, you're having a stir fry. So already, without needing Greek yogurt or anything like that, which is normally what people say, and there's nothing wrong with it, but people will get bored of it pretty quick. You're already probably, by having those three kind of ideas for meals, you're probably getting around 75 to 80 without having to add something else in. And that's without your snacks, like a protein bar. And no, you won't die. Sorry, Joe Wicks. You won't die if you have a, he's a fucking idiot. Um, yeah, so that would help. So getting your hormones checked would be the first thing. But eating regular meals, getting your high protein in, having fats in, keeping your veggies in, reducing alcohol, those side of things will help. And then that can help on that side of things. Um, should macros change throughout the perimenopause journey? So what I would say is the goal shouldn't be to go low carb, and the goal shouldn't to be go high fat. It's trying to find, it's the exact same as the last answer, is the goal is to preserve muscle and keep what you have to stabilize your energy, to make sure you're nourished. So protein becomes the big thing. We need to try and get those in as much as we can in regular meals. Try to keep carbohydrates in there as people and women kind of go towards perimenopause. They can become a little bit more insulin resistant. Now, that doesn't mean go full keto, but focusing on your protein and your fats can help to navigate that by eating regular meals can really help as well on that side of things. So do we need to change your macros? Is there a perfect macro split? No. Your total calories are what's going to direct things. And they've done studies on, the new research is showing that it's the total amount of calories that will drive fat loss. And as long as your protein is in a solid place, and it doesn't matter what your fats and your carbs breakdown is. So as long as your protein and your calories are in range, and are in range consistently, and you're finding it useful and it's not 1,200 calories, then you'll flourish. But there's no perfect macro split for any stage or any walk of life. It just can be a lot more difficult because you've got the likes of anxiety, depression, sleep, night sweats, etc. At that stage of your life. So it can be a lot harder. Plus, you also have stress. Plus, probably have a family, etc. You've work stress, financial stress, all these kind of different things that are going on. Um, so my question is whether you could improve or could provide more insight in exactly what caused the challenges in weight loss for those with PCOS opposed to those without it. So as like with the other one that I kind of spoke about, the research has changed on this completely from when I did my course. And that's the joy of science. It will always change. Sure, they thought the earth was flat at one stage. So research is always changing. So the big thing that was told to us at the beginning was the metabolism slows down or is slower. It's not. That's not the case. There's no study showing that your BMR between people who have PCOS and don't have PCOS is different. And there's various different studies. It's not, it's more a bigger driver can be is the insulin resistant piece in relation to not eating regularly enough, having cravings, etc., because of undernourishment. But one of the underlying drivers that most people don't talk about is I think it's something like 70% or 60% of people who have PCOS can have heightened anxiety or depressive like symptoms. And what comes with that is body image piece and a body image thing. And if body image is not in the healthiest place, shame, guilt after maybe eating or overeating can spiral into binging, can spiral into really heavy overeating. And then you go and feel guilty and feel shame for that again. And that spirals and continues again and again. It's like a hamster on a wheel. That can be really, really a massive factor in it. One of the other things is because you've got with PCOS, you've elevated elements of testosterone. One positive of that is that you are going to be strong in the gym. That's one massive positive that you have, but it can kind of have wavering levels of kind of insulin resistance. It can increase your ghrelin and play with your hunger hormones a little bit. So, eating high protein, eating regular meals, keeping your veggies and your fiber high, not starving yourself, not going for keto, not going for 1200 calories, leaving some chocolate in, that side of stuff, managing your sleep. Sleep can be hard with PCOS as well. So those are the kind of the main ones. The BMR is not a factor. Insulin resistance can be a little bit of a factor in your cravings, but if you're nourishing yourself, they won't be as heightened or as severe. They can cravings and emotional eating due to the other bits can be a little bit harder. And then on top of that, you've got anxiety and depression. But if you're nourishing yourself versus punishing yourself, life will be great. I know it's easier said than done, but not going for the 1200 calories. That will be the big thing. Not going keto will be the big thing. Look at your stress, look at your sleep. Are you eating enough during the day, or are you trying to bank a load of calories to the weekend and worry and looking at and eating like a 4 year old and wondering why you're overeating in the evenings? So hopefully that helps on that. So as someone who has, I think this is the last question, I think. As someone with PCOS as well as endometriosis, I unfortunately only get periods roughly every 4 to 5 months. Would you know what impact my hormones in this case might have on my weight management? I know this question is fairly broad, so no worries if it's more difficult. So it's a broad question, but I can unpack it in some elements behind it. So having PCOS and endometriosis creates a unique kind of hormonal environment that can impact on weight management, I would say, not just in terms of the physical processes, but also how your body feels, how it responds, and you need different strategies. So your hormones and your metabolic signaling can be off because you're only getting your periods every 4 to 5 months. That suggests there's going to be an anovulatory cycle where ovulation doesn't happen regularly. And without ovulation, you're not going to get that peak of progesterone after ovulation. So that peak that I spoke about, like the ovulation peaks with the estrogen, and then that drops, and then your progesterone. So you're not getting that surge here, while estrogen, etc., will kind of float around for a little bit longer, and this can lead to insulin resistance, like PCOS. They can lead to a little bit more fat altering storage patterns, mainly around the abdomen, and it can reduce the muscle building efficiency, etc. It can lead to inflammation and pain, etc., and mood disturbances, which can increase appetite, increase energy, your energy balance, and sometimes your thyroid can be interplayed in here as well. Sometimes there can be an underactive thyroid element when there's the two of endometriosis and PCOS at play. You may burn slightly fewer calories, but that's not official. But it may be an element behind it. But it needs consistency rather than going really aggressive and going really, really hard at things. So it's a slow and steady process. So eating regular meals, resistance training, looking at omegas, veggies, looking at managing sleep and stress, gentle calorie deficit rather than a really aggressive calorie deficit, and then track progress more than the scale. And that goes for all walks of life, photos, measurements, energy, pain. Look at those side of things. So it can be a little bit more difficult. Is it possible? Yes. But the hormonal setup won't block the fat loss. it just may change the pace and how your body is working, and it's trying to figure out how your body works and what's regular for you, and then looking at how to navigate and kind of tick along while it's working for you, and then maybe easing back when it's not maybe working for you. So hopefully that helps on that side of things. So hopefully that helps. I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions through. Perfect. Thank you very much for your time, Shane, for jumping on. Any questions? Anything wants to go into the chat? Fire away if you've got any, or else let us know if you're all good. Excellent. I think that's us all good. 100%. Thank you very much for your time, Shane, for coming on. This is going to be absolutely brilliant for everybody watching back. That's 45 minutes there, lots of value, not just for the females in the group, but I think it's an important thing for even men to understand as well. Just to be a bit more caring and like understanding of whether it be their partners or family members and stuff like that too. Because it's an area a lot of people aren't educated enough on, even especially in the fitness space. Like I think it's come on better over the past few years. There's more education out there, but as you know, probably yourself, there's probably still a lot of people in the space that aren't as educated on these topics as they should be.
But it's like I like even if I see something up on social media, you kind of second guess it, and you're kind of like I can understand how people can get confused. Like I get confused sometimes of like I actually would look at it and kind of like, all right, this how do I go and find this or whatever it is, and look it up. But I can understand if maybe if people have like I didn't know any of this 8 years ago. I knew there was a thing called a menstrual cycle, but outside of that, I didn't know anything. Um, so I can understand when people hear like a hormonal balance or cortisol protocol program or whatever it is, it's jazzy words with no actual practicalities behind it. We all know that we should be managing our stress. We all know that there's going to be hormonal changes, etc. But if you hear something that's talking indefinites, etc., or if you hear anything that's kind of too good to be true, I would just raise a red flag against it and kind of like, if you want proper information, like the supplement guide, there's examine.com, which can be really useful. There's a few different resources and stuff like that can really, really help. And like there's loads and loads of different people doing it.
Yeah, I think it's key to be fact checking anything that you see online as well. As I'm sure you'll know, like, and it's hard whenever you're not in the fitness space to know what's kind of bullshit and what's not. Because
It is hard. And
someone has,
like even watching the show on Tuesday, Monday, you're kind of looking at it, you're kind of like, I understand what he's trying to get at, but I can also understand how people can get locked in on the different things. But I can also do like there was just lacking a lot of context around basically putting all UPFs under the same bracket when brown bread is a UPF.
yeah, this is the thing. It's for anyone that doesn't know, this guy Joe Wicks, a fitness coach in the UK, who's fairly famous, and he's made a documentary telling people essentially that protein bars are going to kill them. Shane, did you watch it? Did you watch the full thing?
I watched it and like my fiance is a food scientist. So we were watching it and it was interesting that her first take was, I don't know what he's trying to achieve from this. And that was her first take. And I understand what he was trying to achieve of trying to get legislation change, etc. But if you look at what Marcus Rashford did during COVID, which is getting the meal tokens for the kid the poor kids over in the UK on the school meals, he did it without a shock factor. So it can't change. I understand what he's trying to do. But if you look at maybe who was invited to the launch of it, you can see a few people. You're kind of like, he didn't really invite any proper dietitians. He didn't really invite any proper doctors. Doctors. I know he had your man Dr. Chris, with him, but it kind of felt like Dr. Chris was kind of leading it and just needed a bigger face and a bigger name to get in and almost had a gun to his head. I kind of felt
Yeah,
that way.
that's it. Like, 'cause the key really is like, obviously, no one's trying to say that ultra processed foods are good and that we should only eat them, but demonizing the food, as you said, you're the one I always use the analogy you gave me years ago of the pink elephant. Like if you tell somebody don't think about a pink elephant, immediately
Mhm.
you're thinking of a pink elephant. If you tell yourself you can't have this food because it's processed, it's just going to make you want it more and more. I always use the analogy as well of like whenever I was younger, when I was 16, 17, all I wanted to do was be able to drink. And I thought, oh, when I'm older, I'm going to drink every day. I'm going to get beers every evening and sit and watch TV and drink every night. But then I don't do that now. Now that I'm actually a grown up, because it's like the stigma's gone. You can have a drink whenever you want, but you don't do it all the time because it doesn't make you feel great. But if whenever I was younger and thought, because I couldn't have it, I was like, oh, there's nothing I want to do more than go to the pub. It's creating a stigma around something. It's just going to make you want it more.
But it's easier to put out the stigma. I'd say it's easier to put on a label or whatever it is. But I'm sure that's a different rant altogether.
Yeah, it's a shock factor. But look, thanks very much for your time, Shane, and for jumping on the call. Hopefully everybody that's watched back has got plenty of value. And just one more time before I guess we're gonna jump off, where can everybody go to find you?
So you can find the Shane Walsh podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, and you can on Instagram and stuff like that. You go to Shane Walsh at Shane Walsh Fitness if you want to give us a follow or whatever it might be. If you have any questions or queries on anything I've said on it, just pop us a DM and let us know you're kind of watching the webinar, and I'll try and break down because I can only put in like each of those topics are probably hours and hours and hours of topics, and it's trying to condense it all. I know I speak fast, I know I'm going through it fast. So if you have any more queries or questions on what's been asked or anything I've said, just pop us a message.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shane.
No worries at all. Thanks very much, Michael.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So you